Hi fellow reefers, I'm Eddie of Eddie's Reef Korea. Today's weekly video is on acclimation. How do I actually acclimate corals and fish? And also the beauties that I got from Worldwide Corals this past weekend where they had the grand opening of the superstore. That was amazing. So I went ahead and got 3 corals, and I also got a yellow tang. So I'm going to go ahead and the first part of the video, I'm going to show you what do I use and how do I acclimate all of my corals and also my fish. Then later, on the second part, I'll go ahead and I'll show you the different corals and the actual yellow tank. So hold on one second. Okay, and here we are, and I thought I'd show you my procedure, how I actually acclimate, like I mentioned on the intro, all the corals and the fish. Now, before I go into it, there's different rule of thoughts. One group of hobbyists say that you don't need to acclimate corals. You go ahead, you put them in, and they acclimate by themselves. Others say no, that you should acclimate everything. That's the school of thought that I belong to. No matter if it's corals, if it's little hermit crabs or whatever, and of course definitely fish, I acclimate them, and this is how I do it. I have this bucket. It's a dedicated bucket only for the tank and mainly for acclimation. When I get a new organism, it goes in here. Now, what I use actually is the drip method. The drip method being these, you can get them at any LFS. It's just a simple, like an IV drip method, which is what they call. All you do is, let me take this off here. Okay, a little water. All you do is you place this here, and then you're going to place the end, of course, on the bucket. Now, how do I know when the acclimation is properly performed? Okay, as you must notice, you must be aware, all the fish, of course, and corals come in the bags with water. What I do is I empty the fish, corals, etc. I empty them here first on the bucket. And then I go ahead and I do a visual of what's the height of the water upon putting the organisms with the water. Then what I do is I set up the drip method, and when that amount of water is doubled, that's what I call it's acclimated. Now, when I say acclimated, in reference to all the water parameters, the salinity, the temperature, and all the things like the calcium, the alkalinity, magnesium, on and on and on. That to me is my full acclimation. I do not quarantine my corals, and I do not quarantine my fish. Now, if I do see that I'm buying organisms, whether it's fish or corals, from a place that is not reputable, shall we call it, I would acclimate the fish, but I definitely would dip the actual corals. Places like Worldwide Corals, green light. I do not dip them, the corals. I do not go ahead and quarantine the fish neither, because I mean they're very reputable, and when you go, they have done that work for you. And even by looking the organisms and the displays, you can tell. So now the other step is I'm going to take a close-up shot, and I'm going to show you actually the amount of drip, how it should look when you use this method. Okay, now for starters, here I'm set up getting ready to do the drip method. Okay, I have the, as you notice, I placed it on the tank, and this is, it's like an IV. Okay, now this is completely open. This is where you would start to lower the little wheel and close it. So we're going to keep it completely open. And now I'm going to show you what I actually do, where you actually squeeze it, and then what's the amount of drops that I'm looking for by adjusting this little wheel going down where it would start to strangle the actual line and would affect the actual drip method. So hold on one second. Okay, so here we are in front, and here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to start to squeeze this little apparatus here, and this is what will start to inject, create like a vacuum to bring the water inside the actual line. Okay, now if you notice, the water is already going down the line. So now what we would have to do is actually start to close that little wheel I told you. Okay. We're closing it, closing it, closing it. Okay. Okay, now if you can see that, there you go. Okay, you're noticing the constant drop, 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 drop. That's what I'm talking about. That's the calibration that you should do, again, as I was saying, with a little wheel. So you have this constant drop, not a drop, no, drop, 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 drop. That. One final thing that I would mention when it comes to using the drip method, all the water that you actually take out of the tank to acclimate, that water should, and again, I stress this, very important, should be replaced with fresh salt water. Do not go ahead and use the combination of the water that came from the LFS and your water, and then just go ahead and introduce the organisms, and then get the bucket and just pour in the water until you reach, you know, the allowable level for your tank or your sump, and you know, in other types of setups. Do not. Whatever water comes out of your aquarium, you should replace it with fresh salt water. Okay, and here we are in front of the three beauties from Worldwide Corals. Starting from the left to the right, the first one is called Bubblegum Digi. It's of course of the Montipora family, and it's an SPS. The one in the middle, of course, that's a hammerhead. But this hammerhead is what's called a splatter hammerhead. What that means is that it's also neon green, but it has another color, like a multicolor type of coral. And then on the right hand side, then you have another little colony, a frag of zoos that I bought. Be honest with you, they told me the name, but I wasn't paying attention, so I'm sorry about that one. I really don't recall the name, but they're like yellowish. They're very beautiful, beautiful. So you can imagine when those zoos start to colonize and get bigger and bigger. Well, that's it. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you liked it, hit the thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. And like I say at the end of all of my videos, happy reefing. Thank you very much for watching, and have a great, fantastic day. Bye-bye.